When I'm planning a trip, I'm always excited about the place I'm going. I research restaurants, I research things to do, I research everything. Sometimes, though, things just don't work out. When I arrive, it might feel like a chore to do the things that I had on my list, or something just may go wrong and prevent me from doing the things that I had planned. So, what do you do when your previous preparations don't work with the new reality of your situation? Hey y'all, I'm Ashley and this is All Bodies Travel, a channel all about travel, everything from road trips to cruise ships, especially for those of us in larger bodies. Earlier this month, I drove to Williamsburg, Virginia to visit Jamestown Settlement and Colonial Williamsburg. The morning I woke up and was set to go to Colonial Williamsburg, I just didn't want to. It felt like a chore, something to check off my to-do list, and I wasn't excited to go. Nonetheless, I had paid the $50 entry fee, so I was going. I gave myself a pep talk and took off for the visitor center. I should have known something was going wrong when I missed my turn twice. The visitor center was beautiful with flowers and a fountain and a metal 3D map of the area. I made my way inside, handed over my Viator pass, and I had to present a photo ID and provide a phone number. And then I got a little clip-on badge and a paper map, and I was on my way. So I made my way to the shuttle waiting area so I could get to Colonial Williamsburg proper and not just the visitor center. I knew it would be too far for me to walk, so I opted to use the shuttle. I studied the map, I figured out my stop so I could go to the Raleigh Tavern Bakery, and I waited for my stop to come along. But then I got confused because they were calling off names of places that the stops were close to rather than the names of like the cross street or whatever. So when they called off Raleigh Tavern, or just the tavern, I wasn't sure I was in the right place, and so I sat there in my confusion and I missed the stop. On to the next stop, I guess. Riding to the next stop did mean a little bit more walking for me, which was not great because already at 9:30 in the morning, I was hot and sweaty and tired. And remember, I wasn't excited to be there. But I meandered around and I found myself at the blacksmith forge, where I heard the gentleman there explaining the difference between a forge and a furnace. And I got to watch them do this. Which was pretty cool. Now, in between stops, I was resting. I'm first to tell you I am not great at walking, though I'm working on it, and I needed to make use of the benches along the street. I finally ended up at the Raleigh Tavern Bakery, which is tucked around behind the Raleigh Tavern, and I had a muffin, a cream soda, and a glass bottle, which is the best way to drink a cream soda if you ask me, and a bottle of water. As I sat in the courtyard eating my muffin and drinking my cream soda, it occurred to me that I wasn't enjoying this meandering. Not everything was open to the public, and it was kind of hard to tell what was open. Things weren't open yet, or they weren't open that day, and there was supposed to be a flag flying outside if they were open, but I wasn't seeing a lot of flags. I don't know why. Maybe I was there too early, but it turns out Colonial Williamsburg is a very free-form, meandering kind of place to go. You catch the talks you want to catch or the tours that you want to do, and then you wander around and wander into shops and wander into crafting locales like the wig maker or the tailor or the, I don't know, the cobbler. I don't know if they have a cobbler. I'm just making things up now. I just wasn't feeling it that day at all. So I made my way back to the shuttle, the one where I was supposed to get off in the first place. I had a seat in the shade and I drank my water and I watched the world go by while I waited for the shuttle. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been to Colonial Williamsburg and if you enjoyed it. I hope you did. It just wasn't my kind of place on that day at that time. Now, I wasn't giving up entirely yet. I decided to go to the art museum and wander there because at least there were things that I could wander to and I would know that it was open. and I would be able to access it. They did have a folk art exhibit that I wanted to see. Then on a whim, when I got there, I decided to do this mini quilting class where you make a tiny little quilt about that size. I paid, and they pointed me to the next person who pointed me to the next person who told me I was about 20 minutes late, or 20 minutes early, and to wander around at my leisure. She told me where some quilts were on display. So I walked around the gallery there where we were meeting the quilt teacher, and it was full of really exquisite furniture from the period. And then I had a seat on a padded bench in a painting gallery where I could see the quilting, where I could see the place where we were supposed to meet the quilting teacher. On the way to the classroom, we stopped and talked about a quilt that was on display made by Rita Mae Petway of Gee's Bend, Alabama. I'll link to a picture of it in the description in case you want to check it out. And then we got onto the classroom to start making our mini quilts. I'll spare you the details of the process, but here is my final result. When I was done with my tiny cicada-sized quilt, I was hungry. I was on the verge of hangry, okay? So I needed food immediately, or as close to immediately as possible. So I asked the ladies there, the teacher and the ladies I was sitting with, if they had any recommendations for lunch. And I went on my way. I caught the shuttle again. I ended up at a pub drinking a peach tea cider, which was delicious, and eating beer cheese and a burger. Pretty typical for a pub, but it was good. While I was sitting at lunch, I decided that Colonial Williamsburg was not for me. It was not set up in a way that I enjoyed or that was really accessible to me in my present body. The quilt session was the highlight of my day. So I caught the shuttle back to the visitor center and drove home. The big question is, how do you deal with disappointment when you're on a trip that you expected to enjoy? For me, I find something that will make it better, like a quilting class or a peach tea cider, and not because it's alcoholic. Sometimes it means rolling with the problem and making changes on the fly. In 2022, my husband and I went on a cruise to the Southern Caribbean, and one of the stops was Aruba. Now, we had originally planned to split up, and he was gonna go scuba diving, I was gonna go on a bus tour, and we'd meet up in the evening and go on a catamaran sailing, not around the island, but, back and forth across the island, I guess. However, he ended up with an ear infection, which, if you're a diver, means you can't go scuba diving. The tour I had planned to take was full, so he wasn't able to join me on that. So now what? We're both disappointed that we don't get to do what we originally planned to do. So we flex. We are flexible and we change plans. So we canceled all the excursions and, well, not all of them. We stayed on the catamaran one, but we canceled the daytime excursions. We found a car rental place on the island in the town that we were docking at, and we bought a $15 driving tour of Aruba. We ended up renting a Jeep and having a really fantastic day. We got to spend the day doing what we wanted, when we wanted, for as long as we wanted to. He spent time taking pictures. We pet the donkeys at the donkey farm, and I ate gummy peach rings because I love peach rings. We got to spend the day together one-on-one instead of in a crowded bus or in a crowded dive spot with lots of tourists there. I have a friend who took her kid to Paris. And one day the kid woke up and didn't want to go out and about. So they didn't. They just stayed in the apartment and had a lovely day reading all day. The same friend went on a cruise with her husband, and they initially thought they would get off in Cozumel and go find a beach club or a beach, something low key, but they ended up staying on the ship and still had a really lovely day. What I'm saying is, you can change your plans. Even if you paid the $50 fee, even if you've bought the excursion, even if you should do this or that. Part of the joy of traveling is doing what you feel up to, whether it's mentally, physically, depending on what the weather is, and depending on what the unique circumstances are that you find yourself in. Just because you don't do the thing that you originally planned to do doesn't mean you didn't have a great vacation. I'm glad I went to Colonial Williamsburg because I learned something about myself. I want something less freeform and meandering than Colonial Williamsburg is. If you want some help planning your next trip, I am a travel agent and my email address is in the description below. If you want to hear about some good experiences I had on my Liberty of the Seas cruise last year, check out this video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure you leave a like, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.